Well, I would like to move. We got a lot of great question and answers throughout the whole webinar. Um, I wouldn't be showing the picture of the cats if I was you.
I know. I had to include them, and
Just
this is my team. It's not just all me. It's they're busy working with me.
people were accusing you had a yipping Sydney toy dog in the background there at one point, and people were saying that it was my Larry, which was incredibly rude, given Larry, even though he's a puppy, has quite a manly bark instead of one of those Sydney toy dog type
They-
type barks.
Well, see that one there, that one that's right in front. He was on a diet. He was 7.2 kilos, and he was on a diet, and
Which is
he's now
heavier than
eight
my
point.
dog.
Yeah, he's 8.1 kilos. So the diet, he's getting a source elsewhere. The dog, the yipping dog, I asked the owner the other day, is 4 kilos. So my cat's twice as big as the dog.
Look, it's fantastic. There's been a lot of look. Let's go through some of these questions straight away, and look, I'll try track further questions in the box. Um, but first one I've got here, Caro, is pardon me, is do I need to be located near the clients? That was something that came up a couple of times actually.
No, you don't. You absolutely don't. My biggest client is actually based in Melbourne, and I'm in Sydney. So
So
you don't have to be. So the one that I showed all those invoices, they're in Melbourne, I'm in Sydney. So we just liaise. What I do with them, and this is a little tip, is for most of our we spend a lot of time on email, so that's our main source of communication. We do call each other, but we'll use Skype for also conversations. But when I'm presenting a proposal, we use Skype video, and that's because I want to replicate, and I initiate that because I want to replicate being in a meeting room with them. So I dress, accordingly for it. I do not send through the proposal until we're actually on Skype. Exactly as it would be if you're in a meeting room, you don't pass out the proposal until you're there face to face with them. I wait until we've had the face to face and the hellos, and then I email that to them. And just because my client's not used to actually getting it in the Skype, that was too confusing for him. So I emailed it to him, and then he was able to open it and go through that as I was going through it. So you get that sense of a live meeting. So yeah, so location does not have to be a barrier.
very good. Somebody just very cheekily asked in the chat room whether they're asking if they'd have asking me if I would throw in a bit of immediate edge course action, which is our high-end monthly sort of education. It's sort of the place where we keep everybody up to date on exactly the latest things that are happening online. We've been following, of course, all the Google shenanigans over the last couple of weeks, and iPhone programming and so on. It's really the longest running internet online marketing education program online. It's been going for 5 years now, and Crystal very cheekily asks, how about some immediate ed action? Well, Crystal, if you sign up today, right now, we'll throw in 3 months of the Edge, which is $97 a month, by the way. So that almost covers the cost of the entire offline consulting course. So if you do it today, then I'll throw in 3 months as well. So how's them apples?
That sounds pretty good. Is that for those that are fully paid up, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely. So next question I've got here is how do you do this and work full time? There are a lot, as I said at the start of the call, there are obviously probably a majority of people have something that they're doing full time. How do they transition? How do they? Do you have some suggestions for transition? I've got a couple of suggestions, I've got to say. But do you have any suggestions about how do they handle it being full time and transitioning in terms of being able to service some offline clients?
how what I would do is, so I'm just waiting. There's a plane going over now, which
Can't hear the plane. Can hear that toy dog though.
oh really? But you can't hear the plane.
Nah,
Okay.
keep going.
Um, what I would do with that is if you, it depends how, what flexibility that you have during your working day. So let's say if you're able to take breaks, like if you have a lunch hour or something like that, I would use that time for your personal side, like, you know, if you have a lunch hour, and I would be contacting clients in that time, or, you know, sending through communication. If I was in a position, a work position, where I really couldn't spare any second during the day, I would be I'd be thinking strategically, well, how am I going to go about getting into this? And I'd then tend to pick client or prospects that are in a time zone to me that make it possible for me to do it. So that would be another way that I would approach it. So it could be, for example, because I'm thinking about what I went through when I was in corporate and I had to work full time, and I had a really full-on full-time job in advertising. And I was working evenings and that on my coach. I did my training in the US, and I chose also to do the US because of the time difference. So I could get up super early to make the, you know, US calls and things like that. So I was prepared to get less sleep than what I normally do for that time, for me to help me transition from one career to another. So I'd be suggesting along those lines, or if you have an hour break or something like that, utilize that time. Just use the time that you have and think about where you want your clients to come from.
Yeah, we have a concept in the mentoring program that I do called CFT, which is critical focus time. And one of the things that I've figured out, you know, most people who are successful online are, how do I put this nicely, barely functional human beings. And I say that with a lot of love, and I mean, I certainly include myself in that category. But there's nothing special about succeeding online. But there are a couple of things that I've observed over the years that are very common. And one is their ability to focus on stuff for a very small amount of the day, on the things that are bringing in the business, action taking, bringing in the business. And that is a big part of it. So my advice is, if you're transitioning to do this as a business, and I think getting paid to train, if you can't come up with your idea that's going to do your your replacement income, then by taking on clients locally that can help, you can help directly, you're achieving that same goal, because you're moving, you're getting paid, and you're getting action. And at the moment, and for a start, you can do it part-time. Just take on 1 or 2 clients. Further piece of advice, and use that critical focus time. Use that half an hour a day to work on a client. Don't take on 10 clients. But once you've got a couple of clients, then you might be able to say, go to 4, do work 4 days out of the 5. Or you've realized that, boy, I can make a go of this, and then you can, you know, do this full-time. But it's a lot safer than sort of going and burning the ships and just say, oh, I'm going to do this internet marketing thing. And it doesn't. And it never works. Never works like that. So that would be my, you know, key thing with this. The other thing, and I'll just make a mention of it here, a lot of people are saying, well, I just don't, I'm concerned. What if I take on a client and I can't deliver a result? Never promise anything that you're not certain of delivering a result. And let me give you my #1 favorite way of getting in to doing this offline consulting, helping local businesses get online. Most of you will know somebody, or you'll frequent a coffee shop, or you'll know somebody who's a friend, a mate, who has a small business. Here's what you do. Offer to do this stuff for them for free, but in return, when you do it for them, get them to give you a testimonial. Because you will make mistakes when you first start doing this. Nothing, you know, sorry, some things will not go right. So work on a couple of businesses where you're doing your first lot of training. If you think about it, on the challenge, right, you're working for yourself the whole time. So what difference does it make to work for a couple of local businesses for nothing, to get them up, get them ranked on the first page, get them having traffic coming to them. That way, you get some expertise, you get some bruises, you get some bumps of the road, and then you'll feel so much more confident when you take on your first paying client by doing just one or two clients just to get you in the feel for it. And then you get the confidence to do this, because here's the thing. The stuff that we do on the challenge, for example, in finding a niche is way, 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 way harder to do than to get local businesses set up properly. Caro, you mentioned about setting up Gmail. Just filling in their Google Places listing, for goodness sake, and doing that properly could have an instant impact on the number of phone calls they get. And there are cool ninja level things that you can do, like Pay in Australia. There's a service that will give you 100 phone numbers for about $30 a month. And what I do, and what I encourage students to do, is use those phone numbers on the website so you can track, because clients are hopeless, right? When you're working with clients, please don't expect them to do anything. You have to plan and, by the way, charge for doing everything, because they're so busy, right? Small businesses are busy. Does anybody know a small business here that sits around for a couple of hours each day just contemplating new business ideas, because everything is so sorted out, everything works so well? Of course not. Everybody's just paddling and doing and going as fast as they can. So being able to work with people on initially on a part-time basis, do a couple of examples, and then know the basics of what to do, and don't overpromise something that you can't do, you're going to be fine. So that was a long way of answering that question. Let's have a look. Oh, this is a related one, Caro, and I'll throw this to you, and I'm happy to weigh in on it as well. Does experience matter? What about when it's my first client, right? And I haven't done any of this before, and I think I've given you a bit of an answer of how to solve that a bit. But how do you deal with that, Caro?
Well, as I mentioned to you in earlier on in the presentation, I don't even have a fully functioning website up and running at the moment, which is a big no-no theoretically, but it hasn't impeded me. So I think it's really, I would suggest to you that it's not an issue based on when you are really focused on their business and asking questions and learning about their business. It really doesn't come up, because, and I'm saying this to you based on I'm expecting that you've got some sort of online experience, say from the challenge, and I think that's very, very foundational experience. So let's say you have that, well, you'll know what sort of questions to ask, like, well, what keyword phrases are you targeting? Where are you at the moment on the SERPs? And I'll deliberately use some jargon like SERPs, so, which is like, where are you as far as, Google search returns? Are you on the first page? Do you have a mobile-friendly site? Like, I'll ask them questions like that. I'll say, oh, what sort of online marketing have you done in the past? I'll also be gauging with them, like what their, if they feel they've been burned or disappointed, and that doesn't mean that I then shuttle away thinking, oh God, they're really negative about it. It's like, I'll go, oh gosh, I really hate it when I hear those stories. What happened? And so I'll listen to what happened, and then I'd say something like, oh great, so well, what keyword? I'd go back to, like, what keywords are you targeting? Do you know? What do you have a Facebook page, and so forth. So I'll be asking them standard questions that you would know anyway, and that pretty much positions you as an expert just by asking those questions.
Totally, and I think it's all about it's not about experience. It's always about results. If you're concerned, then why don't you use what you've learned in the challenge and rank #1 very easily in a local business area in your local suburb, take Moonee Ponds for example, and walk in and say, well, here's what I can do, and you show them the website. I've done that with a few managing directors. Just rank #1 for their name, and that definitely gets their attention very, very quickly. You've got to prove, it's all about results, and it's all about targeting. Got a great question during the call. You know, I get rebuffed all the time from people. They don't want new business, and you are absolutely right. It's so right. Small business, you walk into a small business and you say, hey, I'm going to get you more traffic. Hey, I'm going to get you more business. They will instantly tell you to go away, even if they desperately need it, because they just don't have the time. They have no time. The best approach that I've seen, and I wish I could say I invented it, but I did not invent it, is the cheese and whiskers approach, which Dean Jackson invented and developed. And I just thought it's magnificent. If you do a search for Dean Jackson cheese and whiskers, you'll come up with some podcasts which explain this concept. And it's about targeting the market directly. In this day and age, we're so lazy. People will walk into a mechanic and say, hey, I can get you more business for online. Then they'll work into a florist and say, hey, I can get you more business online. Then they'll go to a restaurant and say, hey, I can get you more business online. And they'll all say no. They're not interested. But if you go to the florist and say, hey, do you do weddings? I bet you'll get a return email. I bet you'll get a return phone call. Of course they do weddings. It's a 200% margin markup. The same darn bunch of flowers, which will cost you $50 during the week, on a wedding is $200. They love weddings. You go to that mechanic and say, hey, do you do corporate lease work? Oh, do you do corporate lease? They love corporate lease work. It's money for jams, right? It just walks through the door. Hey, a restaurant? Hey, do you guys do birthday parties? Oh, do we do birthday? But we love birthday parties. And you start off, people just don't think, we're so infatuated by the technology and email and things that we forget to think about what we're offering. We forget to think about the fundamentals of marketing and what's going on inside a person's head, and giving them the respect of actually coming up with something, an approach that will make sense to them. And we're always thinking, do you want more business is just another code word for please pay me more money. And of course, as Dean would say, there's, everybody in my business certainly is allowed to accept money. And I imagine your businesses too. You'd let them accept money at any point in time. In fact, they could get fired if they didn't accept the money. But when it comes to spending money, typically that's only one person in the business. And yet we're here trying to interrupt their day and do that. You could be so much smarter than that. And something that I'd love to do, Caro, during the course is do a special webinar just on this for members, because I think it's so important that you can actually have fun with this. People get so pent up about contacting businesses, and you might find this hard to believe, but I hate it. Like when I was selling computers, I hated cold calling, hated it, and we were meant to do 10 calls every day, and I said bugger that, because I just don't like talking to people much. Some of the clients were New Zealanders even, and I just didn't want to speak to them. And
no.
So I know, and so I came up with this strategy of creating seminars where I would get new cool people who produce new cool products for the Mac. Apple would actually give me their seminar room for free, and then I'd get all these distributors to come in and show their cool new products. And I ended up with, every month having 200 people come to this seminar that I would create. And I would just be introducing people and cool new products to them. And of course, when they wanted to do business, they contacted me. I didn't have to I didn't have to bug them. When they were ready to buy a Mac, they wanted to come and help me. I tell the story about my father-in-law, who's a long-term Rotarian, and he had a speaker fall through, and he never asked me to speak, but he said, look, Ed, I'm really stuck. Could you come and have a talk to everybody? And I thought, yeah, of course, I'll happily do it. So I went out to speak to the good old Melton Rotary Club, and I just told them, here's 10 things that you can do with your business and a surly teenager to, instantly get your online presence just 10 times better than what it is today. And I just showed them, I gave away the information. They could have easily gone and done it themselves. But what do we know? We know that any business is up to their necks and eyeballs. They can't do this stuff. Even if they want to do this stuff, they can't do this stuff. So it was quite funny because I didn't realize who was speaking to them. So I had like 16 business cards at the end of that one talk at Rotary, and you're not allowed to sell it. And I didn't sell. The last thing I wanted to do was do any websites. But I had 16 business cards thrust at me that night. Oh, can you help us? Can you get somebody to help us? You know, because by exposing people to what is possible, you don't have to sell. You know, all this closing and selling and different techniques, it's all rubbish. If you target people where they need to be targeted and you educate them and entertain them, when the time comes, they'll call you. And this is what we want to encourage people to. You know, you can have all the tricks and techniques in the world, and you might be the type of person who can pull them off. Caro and I aren't teaching or interested in teaching that, because that works for the 1%. We're much more interested in the 99% and working out there. This was another big one, Caro. This is another big one. How much to charge? Got asked that a lot.
Charge for what?
Charge for the services, right? So how much do you charge clients? You know, how do you work out what to charge a local business?
Oh God, it varies from thing to thing. So I would be suggesting, say, a 10-page website on a WordPress platform, and including logo and branding. So I include that in the price, between 4,000 to 6,000, depending on what I'm doing for them, and also your own comfort level with what you do. Because what I look to do is, like, if they go to a web designer alone, they'll be paying a lot more than that. And here's what I want to say: you need to charge, include in the costing, your time for managing the process. So I always use a developer, and there's ways you can get developers and it doesn't cost a lot. So that may seem like a huge margin, but I spend a lot of time managing that process. I think that's the part that people overlook. You only think about, well, website, I know I can get a website for this much, like for you as an online marketer. But you need to liaise with the client, you need to liaise, say, with the developer, or if you're doing it yourself, liaise with yourself. And that is time. So that's what I have a value of. And I have a rough hourly rate in my mind. So I don't charge exactly, I don't say to the client, well, hourly rate is that. I always charge per project. But for a website, it comes out, I'm most probably, again, the higher end, so it'd be more like 6,000, but I'm then likely to discount it down to 5 based on them doing other things for them. For something like a mobile-friendly site, between 1,000, 1,200, generally for that, again, because of the management of the process for that. A Facebook fan page, well, it's changed now, so Facebook, the timeline, or redo my pricing, but most probably still around about 1,000. I tend to be around $1,000 plus for various items, and that's what I'm getting. But I'm also comfortable charging those prices. And
can I give a suggestion too?
Yes.
It's a little concept that I was taught by some of the high-end consulting firms like McKinsey's, and it's called value billing. One of the things you want to determine from a client is how much a new customer is worth to them. Because if you're a chiropractor, for example, if that somebody comes for an $80 chiropractic session, that client is actually not just worth $80 to them. In fact, the average yearly value of a chiropractic client is somewhere around $600. And so if you are bringing in 4 new clients a month for this chiropractor, you're adding $2,400 a month times 12, which I don't do public math, so it's a lot more. You're adding a lot more to their business. So wouldn't it make sense to be charging them probably $500 a month for these services? even though it might be costing you way, way less to provide them, because that's the concept of value billing, because you are providing a service, and just because you know how to do this and because it's relatively easy for you, it doesn't mean that it's easy for them. And you're providing value, hence the term value billing. And I think, that is it. As you get confidence, I think every business in the world starts out charging way too little for what they do, because you're nervous about delivering. But as you grow in confidence, you absolutely want to grow in your ability to charge clients and make them sort of work and charge what you're worth. And I think you'll find as you go up, as Caro now is working with very large clients. I know many people who have people on, they have them on $200-300 retainers, but the amount of work that they're doing for that $200 to $300 retainer, they might have one or two outsourced team members, which are costing them, $300 to $600 a month to provide, and they do all the work. And they can support 15, 20 clients because they're working on it full time. So that is a big deal. Look, we're running out of time here for the question. I've got a great question. Do you do weddings florist approach? When the client says yes, what do you do next? Have a look for that Cheese and Whiskers podcast. It's fantastic. Just do a Google search. You'll see it pop straight up, and do that. But now let's just recap just briefly here, Caro. So for people who want to take advantage of this, including the 3 months of the Ed, which has thrown my team into complete tears, because I literally, people say, oh, he had that planned as some sort of, deal thing. I can assure you, and my team and Caro will assure you, that that was not planned. And as such, they are scrambling. So please, that'll be available to people. We want you to focus on offline consulting, and once you're in the members area, we'll let you know when you'll be able to access all the Edge stuff. So for new members, and boy, it looks as though we're getting some great signups, which is just wonderful. And thank you very much for people. We really look forward to working with you. So it's the Online Local Hero, and for today, they're getting the 3 months of the immediate Edge, which is effectively almost the cost of the course, because that's $97 a month. You have an ability to take payments. It's $497 if you can do it all in one go. We want to make this affordable. And of course, as with everything that we do, mentoring, because, if you get accepted into mentoring, then you take your chances. But, of course, there's a guarantee involved. So, if you're not happy, it's not for you, please let us know. But really look forward. Thank you very much, Caro, for being part of today.
Thank you. And I just thought comment there, it is US dollars. Somebody did ask, is it Australian or US? It is in US dollars.
Yeah, we're quite happy to accept Australian dollars because it'll be a lot more expensive given the currency.
Yes, exactly.
You get a bit of we get less if you pay us in US dollars, but that's all right. We'll absorb that charge, which is a very funny turnaround. So look, I'm genuine when I say this, that if I look at from mentoring students to challengers, that this paid to train concept is such a massive thing in moving them forward towards their dream of having an online business, because they're being trained just like a baker apprentices, just like a chef apprentices, just like a graphic designer apprentices. This way you do that, but you can get a heck of a lot better paid. So for that, so you might want to turn your screen off there.
No, I am doing that deliberately because I have to get. Somebody said the link didn't work for the PDF.
Okay. So great. Pop that there. Good.
Apologies for that. Let's see if that one works.
No, that's all. I mean, what you do with rubber dolls in your own time is completely up to you. That's totally, we totally get that. That's absolutely fine. It's for the cat. Yeah, sure.
For the cat, honest.
Very good. So there you go. You're getting the link, and we'll do an email to everybody who signed up anyway and do that. So thank you very much, everybody, for today. Thank you, Caro, for presenting that. This is something that's very realistic. If you treat it very realistic, you can start very slowly. Just work with a friend, get their business, like prove to yourself that you can do it, and then of course you will be so catapulted ahead of the program by joining Online Local Hero. It's completely new content. It's completely fresh. Everything is new, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful course. I really recommend it, and I hope, regardless of whether you join us in offline consulting or not, I really hope you think about pay to train and that as a concept, because I think it's the missing link for people to make that transition from doing a full-time job that they don't want to do anymore to that dream we all have of having a full-time business that's online with all the flexibility that that gives you. So thank you very much. There's that toy dog again.
And Rex is in Neutral Bay, which is just around the corner from me. So
yeah.
my
All right,
sister
very
knows
good,
the dogs.
everybody.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Take care.